after she had that conversation with me, I found myself to be a veteran teacher at a crossroads. Excuse me. Because the classroom looked different. I have my type 75, I have my master's in administration. And before, what it looked like to me was graduate, get my 75, dean, vice principal, assistant principal, retirement party, get my watch, move on.
Yeah.
When she told me that there were so many other opportunities, walking into the classroom looked different.
Hey, I'd like to welcome you to Transforming Lives podcast. My next guest, when we talk about just, where do we fit at? What's our purpose? This is the episode for you, right? So you heard the trailer. So we want to go ahead and jump into it. Lynette is an educator that is very passionate about what she does. And as you listen to her story, you can't help but to feel, to be involved in what many educators don't necessarily voice. This episode is going to help you navigate through those lanes. Hey, do me a favor. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button to 50 educators from 50 states. This is Indiana. All right. Thank you for joining. So again, guys, it's always a great time to talk to educators, and today is no different. My next guest, as you've heard, is Lynette Sims. And I want to first ask you, how was the weather in Indiana?
Right now, it is fine. It is 63 degrees. You might need a light jacket. It's better than the 30s and 40s we've had this week, but it can flip on a dime. There's already been a tornado warning alert that has come through my phone for today.
No.
Yeah, so I am pretty close to the lake, about 30 minutes from Chicago. And so the weather can slip on a dime because in proximity to where we are.
Okay, that explains it. Because I was like, in the north, tornado? Like, where did that come from? I was a little worried, but
Yeah,
got you. That explains it. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump right into this. We talk about 50 educators from 50 states. The goal of it is just to talk to educators across our nation and just hear what's happening where they are, hear the experiences, and hearing those experiences, it is a catalyst to push for transformation. So I want to ask you, what first drew you into the world of education, and how did those earlier years shape your why?
So what first drew me into education was sophomore year at my high school, Rick Central. We were in Mr. Gilbert's class, and Mr. Gilbert was a pretty even keel, very funny teacher. One day we came to class and Mr. Gilbert was mad, which was totally uncharacteristic of him. We had written an essay, and I can't remember if the lesson was on prepositions or nouns and verbs. It was something, an English skill that was pretty elementary for sophomores in high school. But apparently we butchered those in the essay. So what he did was he went on a rant. I shouldn't say a rant. He explained that he was upset. He gave us a handout related to the skill that we needed to work on, and he stormed out of the room, which never happened. So I'm going through the assignment. It's about 20 questions. I answered them. In the midst of me answering them, we had a student in class called Munch. And Munch was the student that you did not mess with, not because he was a fighter, but because Munch was the student that would talk about you and have whoever was around in tears and like completely and totally annihilate you. He was funny, but when it came to talking about people, he held nothing back. So Munch is walking around the room, talking to folks. You bald-headed, you this, you that, class is laughing. And I'm looking and Munch's paper is empty. So I took a chance, called Munch over, and I asked him some questions and showed him how to do maybe the first 5 of the assignment. And after the 5th question, I got it. Okay, I went back to my seat and sat down.
Yeah.
Munch finished the assignment. And then he got up again. But this time he got up holding his paper. And he was like, look at number 6. Man, that's wrong. I got it right. See, there go my answer right here. And he did that, walking around the class, showing off his paper until Mr. Gilbert came back in. And it dawned on me, Munch was up talking and messing with folks because he didn't know what to do. And I was like, if I can make kids feel like this, I can do this for the rest of my life. And that's what started to spark for me going into education.
Wow, that's a wonderful experience right there. And as you're talking, I can't say that I had a Munch situation, but it was more over, I got mad at my teacher because he wouldn't teach me.
I've heard that a lot.
And my classmates laugh at me to this day. about that experience where I just got mad and just pounded the desk and told my teacher to teach me. And we all have these experiences that ignited something in us. And for you, you were experiencing a teacher experience as a student
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
this peer-to-peer experience. So that's wonderful to hear, right? Can't say that I was much, but I've had a lot of
Yes.
munches that have been in my class.
Those tend to be my favorite. My first year was Kentrell Nelson, who was a student that was very special to me. He was also the first student that I lost. And I remember him tearing up the class if you let him. And so when I am around students who I give assignments to and they don't start it initially or something, my question is to them, not what's wrong with you. My question is to them is, which one do you have a question about? Or which part do you not understand? And they'll be like, okay, this one. Typically, they're sensitive about what they don't understand. So it's a one-on-one. I'm kneeling at their desk and I'm whispering and we're going back and forth. And then I will let them know, let me know if you have a question. They may not be a raise your hand student because remember, they tend to be embarrassed.
Right. Yeah.
And I'll be like, you give me eye contact or just raise your hand. Or I may say something like, I'm going to check in with you in 5 minutes and let me know if you're good.
Yeah. No, that's good because you recognize who that student is. And in somebody else's class, there may be a behavior problem and just ransack. And you can automatically identify that student and be a tool to help them communicate. Because sometimes when we lack in areas, we tend to act a different way. It's almost like that Snickers commercial, right? Like in that commercial.
You're not really talking.
Yeah, for sure.
And then I'll call them out too. I'll say, you got number 3 right. When I call on volunteers, I'm going to shout you out to answer number 3. So they know what's expected. And then sometimes too, they're not called out for positive things. So to see them called out and then I'm prefacing it with them right away and they know they're going to be successful. Maybe their chest is out.
For sure.
And
And that's what they need. They need that type of affirmation because even though they may have those negative experiences, this is what they expect. And they need someone to push them in a different direction. That's how the impact happens for students. That's how you build a community within your classroom, right?
Yeah.
You help that leader that's experiencing the bad parts of their school experience. And if you can direct them in the right way, like you develop a leader who's going to lead that class in the right way, not the negative way. Right? So we're looking at these experiences that we have and this moment happened and this direct me into this field called education. But also we have these moments where sometimes people don't know how to recuperate from them. We help students and we have a good heart and we're gung-ho. But then we have moments where, in your 7th year, you talk about this whole year of the before and after moment of being fired. And typically sometimes now, just listen, sometimes people don't bounce back from experiences, whether it's fired, resigned, whatever the case may be. So what did that experience teach you about yourself and your purpose in education?
That year was the hardest year of my entire adult life. So prior to that, year 6, I was at a charter that was going through a transformation. And I could tell in this transformation, there was no role for me as a teacher. I needed to find a job. And so there was talk within Chicago Public Schools of these 2 leaders who were they were bad. They were really good. And I thought if they chose me, then I'm somebody. Yeah. And so they came in and then they did a walkthrough in my classroom and I applied and I got a job where one of the leaders was the principal. She chose me. I must be this. I must be that. I walked in and nothing I did was landing. Number one, I didn't agree with the philosophy of what was going on at the school. So what I was doing wasn't translating. And I thought that I was supposed to come in and do what I've done. You've observed it. You know what I can do. Yeah. Let me come in and do what I do. I'm not opposed to coaching. We can talk about what's going on, what needs to change. That's not a problem. But when I came in, it was, you were supposed to go the way, what the school and what they wanted. And I didn't believe in it. On top of that, so I had no peace at school, none. It seemed like I wasn't connecting with kids, which I later found out I did when they reached out to me. I didn't connect with the staff. It was tough. Yeah. On top of that, I was pregnant in the classroom.
Ooh.
And my relationship at the time was extremely tumultuous, to the point where I would get home and sit in the car for an hour and a half before I went in because there was no peace. So I had no peace in school. I had no peace at home. I'm embarrassed to what's going on with my relationship. So I don't want to talk to family and friends because I didn't know if I was going to leave the relationship. So in my mind, don't talk about it unless you leave it, because eventually folks don't want to hear it.
Right.
So at the end of the year, I am called into the office and I'm being told that I am being let go. I could have handled it if it was just me, but it's me. And by this time I've had my son. What do I do? And I can't go home and tell my partner and talk about it. We're already at odds. So I began to think that, and I'm interviewing and nothing is landing. I remember I went on an interview and they were like, teach us how to cut this apple that's in front of us. We're sitting at the table as an apple. Teach us how to do this. I couldn't teach the people that were interviewing me how to cut an apple. And so I lost all faith in what I was doing. I questioned whether I was in education. Maybe I had been ruining kids' lives for 7 years. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I didn't hear from God that I was supposed to be a teacher. So I did not find a job. I said, okay, I can make it on what I receive, and I had to go on public aid. I can make it on public aid. I have to cut back a few things. I can't find a job. Let me just coast until something happens. Started hanging out with my old Southern aunts who will watch my son, and they gave me some good old Southern wisdom. Months go past. I get a phone call. One of my friends I knew had an assistant principal. I said, do you have a job? And he was like, no, I guess we don't have a job together. October rolls around, he calls me and he goes, I have a job and they're looking for a teacher. And I said, okay. And he said, it's on the West Side. If you're in Chicago, you know, the West Side can be tough. I said, I don't care. He was like, they haven't had a real teacher since August, so the classroom management is non-existent. I said, I don't care. And so he said, all right, come in for an interview. So I went into the interview. I sit in the principal's office and she's trying to be all politically correct. We need a teacher that's going to deliver instruction. We need a teacher. I said, look, I will go upstairs right now if you let me. And she goes, you have to go up right now. Go to our central office and do onboarding first.
Yeah.
And it was funny because when I was driving to the interview, I'm driving past and I'm seeing streets named K. I'm on the West Side, seeing all the streets. In the West Side, a neighborhood called K-Town. K-Town is nothing nice. So I'm driving the interview. I'm like, Jesus, you really got me teaching in K-Town? And I got to Laverne, which is the first street after town, went upstairs, got that job, went on onboarding, walked in class a few weeks later. And my first day, I had students sitting and I needed to ask a student to move.
Yeah.
So I looked at Martin Duncan and I said, Martin, I need you to move. And his exact words was, F you mean B, I ain't moving.
Oh, yeah.
I said, baby, I'm getting punked. Where are the cameras in this classroom? Because this is not real life.
Right.
Not real life. Yes, but I stayed at that school 3 years. I started in October. I left my relationship in December. I moved home. And when I talk about this, people say I was broken into a bunch of little pieces. Baby, I was done.
Oh.
Being broken into pieces would have been an upgrade. At the time, after starting a new school and leaving my relationship and all of that, I was done. So I ended up staying at that school for 3 years. And what I learned through that experience was, one, if I could survive that school, I can teach anywhere. I don't need anybody to tell me different. I don't need that approval anymore. But the biggest lesson was God said you were waiting for those people to choose you. They didn't choose you. I chose you. And you lost sight of that.
Oh.
And yeah, he said, you lost sight of that. So I stayed at home, went back and eventually got my master's. I got my type 75. And when I get down or question myself or any of those things now, I remember that I survived that school. Not only did I teach there 3 years, I thrived there. The only reason why I left is because I was offered a position at another school, and my commute there was 2 hours there and back. I needed a shorter commute. And then the principal left, and I ended up following her. But year 7 was transformative. When I left there and went to a new school, I grew as a teacher. I grew as a person. I found my voice for the second time in my life. It was teaching before and after.
This is, I can relate to this story so well that we have
Yeah.
moments where we have to make a decision and we don't realize it when we're in the midst of it. We don't realize
Uh-huh.
that we are transforming. And many
Yes.
times people quit. It's just teachers. I've looked at a lot of the research concerning how long does a teacher stay in it, not just in one district, but just in education. And usually around year 3, year 4, they're gone. And especially experiences like this, really
Mhm.
ask yourself, you start looking at your situation and say, is this really worth it? Okay, I could go over here and make this money and not experience it, the heartaches and the trauma. But
Mhm.
here's the thing.
Yes.
The thing about it is, if you're called to teach,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really matter. Like you develop, and you made an excellent point of not necessarily a point, but an experience that you weren't broken into pieces. It was like sawdust.
Yes.
But the thing about this is that God takes those things like that, and He takes it and He
Mhm.
reshapes us and reforms us in such a way that we are new. That's transformation.
Mhm.
Your mind is being renewed. He changes all of us into what He wants us to look like, right? And we can have this
Yeah.
story to tell. Right? Yeah. Oh, I can relate. Oh my goodness, I can relate to this.
Yeah.
So even in you telling this, and I feel and see the emotions along with this story, this aha moment. During that time, was it an aha moment, or did it happen at another particular point for you?
It happened over time. The aha moments were when people are asking questions, whether they're asking them to me or I'm hearing them in passing, and I'm answering questions and I'm listening to the voice going, wait a minute, that's your voice.
Mm,
Wait a minute, you know what you're talking about. Wait a minute, you didn't ask anybody if what you said was okay or did I get it right. Lynette, you know this stuff. You are now the person that you used to look up to, the person that you used to ask questions to, like, you are now that person. Other aha moments is when I started at a new school and the new teachers are coming to me asking me questions.
right.
And other aha moments are like being able to see things like that, or walking into classrooms or seeing teachers that have relationships with students. And there, I remember telling people, stop talking in class, because they don't have to listen to you the first time, but you're going to say it 3, 4, 5 times, which is evident, which is what Miss McFarland taught me when I was student teaching. But being able to see those things, and the biggest thing from that is I no longer ask permission.
Mm,
When I stopped asking for permission to explain my expertise, those were the aha moments.
for sure. And we all have to have those moments where we understand that we're coming out of a season of our life, and then
Mhm.
standing when it's the new me that has
Yes.
to stand up. Even when you were talking about, we spend the stages of learning, but then we go through the
Hmm.
stages of application, where now we are
Hmm.
having to be the model instead of looking up to the model. Because now, instead of maybe getting strength from someone else, now you are the strength for someone.
Hmm.
That's a different type of conversation, and navigating those waters are really different. It's leadership. That's what it is. There is no other way around it. You don't necessarily have the title, but it's leader. You're a leader. You're a leader, and you recognize your voice is one of the most powerful things you could do as you walk out
Hmm.
this journey. For sure. Man, it's a good conversation, right? I'm trying to enter. I'm trying to have this conversation, but it's powerful because people don't know how to navigate those seasons of their life. Like sometimes we'll
Hmm.
just say that, oh, this is not for me. And we don't understand this is strength. This is strength training. Like it's strengthening us, it's strengthening our mind, strengthening our confidence
Yes.
in ourselves. you encourage people to pay attention to what's missing. Now I'm ready for this. Now, what are some
Yes,
of those things you believe educators overlook that actually matter the most?
I believe that they overlook their experience and their small growths. There was a thing that we talk about in PD, and I know I'm going to get the fraction wrong, but I can explain it. It's something like 112. If you find the tiny thing and you improve over that little thing over time, you've improved it by 1/12 over the course of the goal that you set or over the course of the year.
Yeah.
It's improving the little things. I know often as educators, we talk about improving test results or improving what we learned in PD or going for this degree or going for that. Those are big things,
Yeah.
but the small things matter. And for us to speed the small things, we have to get quiet. I will often get quiet in class and I will listen to the murmur or just watch, just getting quiet and watching. Maybe the little thing that you are missing is that the papers are all askew on your desk and so are the papers that you collected. So that little thing that you're doing is making sure that when I grab the papers, I put a paper clip on them and I put a Post-it and I explain what they are and I sent them down. Just improving that little thing will free up time during your plan or even allow you to go home sooner because it's one less thing that you have to do because we make all these decisions in a day. It's one less thing that you have to do. Just doing that little thing may improve your management because you're not spending the time with your back turned organizing papers, allowing students to get off task.
Absolutely.
Just improving that small thing may stop you from a parent calling or a student arguing about the grade book for a paper that you couldn't find,
Yeah.
which can go to a bigger issue. And it's a tiny thing, but it makes a big difference.
And that's where it is. It's not the big things. Like I've learned
Mhm.
that if you can improve that small percentage over time, it is a bigger thing that happens. And being able to have that focus on the small things really impact. That example that you just gave on organization, a paper clip on the stacks of paper and labeling it changes
Mhm.
the game because when you are called to a meeting,
Grab it and go.
and then for the leader or whoever called the
Mhm.
meeting, they're not necessarily accepting in terms of what they may classify as excuses. You should have did ABC. Then we become
Mhm.
frustrated. But if you organize it in the best way
Mhm.
that you
Mhm.
possibly can, you improve as a person. And then you start to
Mhm.
build on that. That's the foundational stuff. Yeah.
And that's something I had to grow into because initially when I first started teaching, my coworker across the hall was extremely organized. And some days she would walk in my classroom, shake her head, and walk right back out
Yeah.
because it was a mess. I went through the Together Teacher workshop and then started developing systems on my own, and it's been a game changer. And my students know that when we are in Miss Sims' class, we're going to get this work. We are working in here because she has this, and my classroom can run itself. Students can need something, and I just point and they know where it is, or go get this, and they got it, and we can get back to instruction.
See, that's a whole podcast right there of just talking about just organization where I call it building a community, right? So building that
Mhm.
community within the classroom where even if you're not there, you have systems in place where the students know it is such a game changer where then you develop small leaders in your classroom where they buy
Yes.
into and they're like, this is not Coach Kimball's room. This is our room, and they take care of it. And instead of you having to tell them, okay, pick this paper up, you have somebody in the classroom that now says, okay, this is we're together in this. So you have a responsibility in this classroom. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. I've been there.
Yeah.
I've driven
And
it
it builds the
before.
trust too. Yeah. And it builds the trust because they know that Miss Sims trusts me to go here. Students say they need a pencil. I'm like, go look in the top drawer of my desk. And it builds the trust to let them know that, like you said, this is a community and this is a teacher that loves and trusts us. I'm safe in here.
I didn't know how important trust was and a student feeling safe. Like they talk, you can talk the educational jargon, right? You can, here's what research says. Yeah, I get that. But until you really dive in yourself and have your moments and really write your narrative on what those are, it's different. But I understand if a student doesn't feel safe and if a student
Yeah.
trusts you, you can, okay, what test scores? You can forget about that. That's out the door.
Yes.
Kids don't
Yes.
study that stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So you talked about those small things. And what do you believe is the deeper purpose of education today, especially in the lives that the students that we serve?
The deeper purpose of education today, I believe, is choice. I believe that students need to know that they have a choice, and what that choice looks like is having different skills. There's no more picking a job, staying there, getting your watch, and retiring. One, because people are leaving. If this doesn't serve me, I'm leaving. And I'm seeing that a lot. We're seeing that in education. Teachers are not staying. And they're not staying because of the pay and because of the stress that we experience, but they're also leaving because it's not serving me.
Yeah.
There's some teachers are like, I love this, but I'm not willing to be a martyr, which before is what we were told. You have to be a martyr. We were told that this comes with it. And if you do leave, it's shameful. You couldn't hack it. And what I'm saying with new teachers is that they are seeing things different. So with my students, I want them to have a choice. I want them to have transferable skills. I want them to know the skills that they have. I have always taught in urban district. I was in the south suburbs of Chicago for 3 years, but for the past 17, I've been in the city of Chicago. And I want my students to know that you have a choice. Where you start here may not be what you want in 5 years. What skills do you have right now? What skills can you develop? Where can you go? What does that look like? That is the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now with my students. And what I'm seeing as far as opportunities and growth in jobs right now. And of course, a lot of those skills have to do with technology. I do have to spend more time with my students, yes. And I'm saying this with a lot of students, both urban and suburban. You can operate a phone and social media wonderfully, but that needs to translate to Google Drive.
Correct.
And that's what I'm not seeing. I made the assumption that being able to operate a phone and technology meant that you could operate other types of electronics. And I think too, I made that assumption with my age, thinking because they can do this, they can do the others, and it's not. So those are also skills that I need to see that are transferable.
Yeah, and that's good. Even with choice, when you look at the broader perspective of choice, you give them freedom. So
Yes.
until we understand we have a choice, we're bound by only what we see. When you talk about technology, right? Like I was the one to say, hey, if you can put a post on social media, you can make one of those little videos, then you can do this math. And the part that's hidden that we really don't realize is what they value. And once you can change what they value, then the choices now become something more broader now. So if you can get them to look at, okay, same stuff we're doing on social media, and I was big on this. If you can make a TikTok video, then you can make a
Yeah.
TikTok video about algebra. And they're like, no, Mr. Kimball,
Yeah.
we can't do, no, that ain't happening. I said, yeah, you can.
Mhm.
Believe it at first, but as we evolved and they understood that they had a choice, yeah, it then looks different at that point. I agree. Yeah. Yeah. So we're getting close to wrapping this up. This is a different conversation that is valuable to the life because these are conversations, these are experiences that are not heard a lot of times. And it may be a teacher leaving education and you don't necessarily know why. And these heartfelt conversations are needed so that we can have and develop empathy and understand how to lead in a more effective way instead of just saying, you do what I say. Tell us a little bit about Sims Consulting. Can you give us a little bit more information about that and what kind of impact that you're looking to make through it?
I'm looking to make an impact on new teachers and veteran teachers. How Sims Consulting came about is 2 years ago, I had surgery. I had a tendon repair on my foot. And so when I returned to school, I was talking to my CEO and I was like, what are the plans for me next year? And she said, we need to talk about your career. Wait a minute. What do you mean? Do I have a job next year? And she goes, I'm going to call you. And so she called me a week or so later and she said, I have seen us pay for PD for people that have no idea what they're doing. And we paid them a lot of money. She said, you have a wealth of knowledge. You need to figure out what your thing is and you need to become a consultant. What? Now, this is someone that I consider a mentor. She was my principal on the West Side. When she left the West Side, I followed her to the school that she's at now, and she worked from principal to CEO. And so I sat down with that and I said, I don't know. Now, this was a lot of talking. This was all God. And so with them says consulting, I'm looking to work with districts and to work with new teachers because new teachers are coached on classroom management and curriculum. But coming into teaching, it messes with your mind. Life looks different that first year. Coming home looks different. Family members look different. I often tell people I don't engage in barbecue conversations. And what those are is when I'm at a barbecue and I'm standing in line getting my ribs and my baked beans and the person next to me finds out that I'm a teacher, they want to go on a rant about kids today and kids. And I used to argue with people and I don't anymore. If this conversation is not going to lead to change and you coming in my classroom and us sitting down and having a conversation, please shut your mouth. You're blocking the macaroni and cheese. That's it. And so it would be a holistic approach with new teachers, curriculum, classroom management, what life looks like, what is self-care like. How do you handle your children when you have been in a classroom and it's been a rough day and you've seen your students exhibit behaviors that get on your nerves, and then you get home and your child exhibits that same behavior, but you can hit your child. How do you keep yourself together? Because I've made that mistake. My son has caught the brunt of everything I couldn't say in the classroom, which is not fair to him. But we don't talk about what that looks like coming into education. How do you not always trauma dump on your partner? It's those things. So it's a wraparound approach. How do you take care of yourself? How do you organize? That is what I'm looking to speak with new teachers. With veteran teachers, it was after she had that conversation with me, I found myself to be a veteran teacher at a crossroads. Excuse me, because the classroom looked different. I have my type 75. I have my master's in administration. And before, what it looked like to me was graduate, get my 75, dean, vice principal, assistant principal, retirement party, get my watch, move on. When she told me that there were so many other opportunities, walking into the classroom looked different. And it was things that I was not aware of. As veteran teachers, sometimes we feel forgotten. We get tired of being the heavy if you're the teacher with good classroom management.
Yep.
I am more than just taking the students other teachers can't deal with. I am more than just sitting back at field trips and watching this. I am, and sometimes administrators overlook veteran teachers. And so it is, and then also coupling that I'm 45, being a veteran teacher, sometimes feeling overlooked, not necessarily knowing my purpose, and then navigating the life changes that come when I'm 5 years from 50, how I'm seen in society was tough.
Yeah.
And it was not something that I expected. So veteran teachers at a crossroads are exactly that. Navigating age, navigating life, and navigating where I fit in school culture. And that also can be a hard conversation with administrators as well.
I will say this, that is powerful. We'll continue to talk offline about this right here that you just laid out, but I would say that's powerful. Whew. This has been an excellent conversation, and usually what at the end, I call it a 2-minute warning. My background is in coaching sports, and we have a 2-minute warning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the floor. I'm going to change over and put you on the floor. Hold on one second. Let me make some changes. Thank God that this is not live. That's what I'm used to. Hold on. Single. I'm gonna change you over. Give me 1 second to put your name here, and we're gonna rock them.
Okay.
Tech base. Let me make sure I have the right. Okay, so we should be good. Okay, so let me get you to say something so that I know that your voice is on this particular slide. If you can say something real quick. Okay.
I'm here.
Okay, gotcha. All right. So again, this is our 2-minute warning. Lynette, you have the floor.
Education is a calling. It is not a career. But what I want you also to understand is that education is a business. We are definitely emotionally led. Do not lose sight of the fact that education is a business and it needs to operate as such. So you must take care of the business that is at hand, but you also must take care of yourself. Track everything that you do. Lesson plans, instruction, leading committees, offering opportunities, whatever it is that you do, keep a running list of that and don't be afraid to promote yourself because things will change, people will move, and you need to be able to advocate for yourself, not wait for someone to tell you that you're pretty, you're beautiful, you do great with instruction, and you need to move up. You must need able to advocate for yourself. Do not be afraid to do it. Do not be afraid to negotiate for more money. Do not be afraid to say, these are the skills that I bring to the table. This is the impact I have on the culture and the mission of this school. Do not make the mistake that I did, where I was so wrapped up in emotions that I lost sight of the fact that education is a business. And you need to conduct yourself as such. And you need to fight for yourself as well. And that is my 2-minute warning.
Right one. But that is awesome. Again,
Thank
guys,
you.
this concludes. I've been excited to have Ms. Lynette on. This is definitely a powerful conversation that we all should have had years ago to ensure that we can move forward. So again, check out the description on how you can reach out to her. And this is 50 educators from 50 states. This ends our session.